PLC has received a strong endorsement by researchers at the Barts Cancer Institute in London for its Parsortix system for harvesting circulating tumour cells linked to prostate cancer. Andrew Newland is Chief Executive at the company and he joins me now on the phone. Andrew, thank you for joining us today.
Good morning.
Now, Andrew, for our audience, can you sum up this research and why it is significant for your company?
Yes, well, this is extremely significant work for us. The Barts publication is, in fact, the first peer-reviewed scientific journal publication on Angle's Parsortix system, and it adds to a lot of other evidence that we've got in terms of published posters from other cancer centres. And what it demonstrates in their work is the use of Parsortix system in capturing cancer cells from patient blood for prostate cancer patients, which has some tremendous implications for treatment.
Okay, what are the implications then?
Well, our system is very easy to use, and it means that the patient can have a simple blood test during their treatment to capture the cancer cells from their blood for analysis. So we call that a liquid biopsy. And what that means is it means that the doctors can look at the current status of the patient's disease and make the right decisions about which drugs will be helpful for them.
And Andrew, let me know if I'm wrong, but the system identifies cancerous cells, but not just. It also identifies telltale cells, doesn't it? Telltale cells that cancer is present in the patient.
Well, the application of our system is very broad. One of the major advantages is that unlike traditional approaches, we don't use antibodies in the capture mechanism. And that means that we capture all types of cancer cells that are in the patient blood, not just the so-called epithelial cells, which other systems can capture, but also mesenchymal cells and clusters of cancer cells. And these two latter types are the cancer cells in the blood that actually cause the secondary cancer. That's how the cancer metastasizes in a different location, by these cells traveling in the blood. So getting hold of these particular cells is highly important and enables a much more targeted approach to treatment to be used.
And Andrew, as you have mentioned earlier, the quality of the cells harvested is also superior to those harvested by other systems, for instance.
Well, there's lots of advantages of the Angle system, notably as well as getting all the different types of cancer cells. It's a quick system. It's quicker than other approaches, and it's much easier to use. And it presents the cells in a much higher level of purity, which means that they can be easily analysed without too much contamination from white blood cells. And furthermore, it avoids the use of antibodies, which saves on expensive reagent costs. And it avoids a big problem with antibody systems, is the contamination from magnetic beads used in their process. So the Angle system is broadly speaking a technically advanced but nevertheless fairly simple filter, which is capable of getting these cancer cells. And what's more, the cancer cells Barts have demonstrated they are harvested in a viable state, which means that they can be grown outside the patient. And culturing the cancer cells outside the patient obviously has very, very important medical benefits.
And the medical benefits are?
Well, potentially you could take the patient's cancer just from a simple blood test and grow it outside the patient, and then test drugs on the cancer being cultured in order to work out which ones will be effective in the patient, and that could then avoid the patient having drugs which produce toxic side effects but don't work for them, and instead give them drugs which do work for their particular cancer.
And Andrew, this study we have been referring to, it's to do with prostate cancer, but Parsortix has also other applications, hasn't it?
It does, yes. The Parsortix system works very well for all different solid tumours. So we've had excellent results in, as well as prostate, but in breast cancer and ovarian cancer. And we've got other studies being done by other key opinion leaders, big cancer centres, in other fields such as lung cancer, colorectal cancer, pancreatic cancer. So there's a very wide applicability of the same system.
So Andrew, what are the next key milestones for the system's development?
The next key development for us is in the ovarian cancer triaging application. So this is in detecting ovarian cancer, which can't be done at the moment. We are working with the Medical University of Vienna, and we're in the process of a patient we've already done initial patient studies, but we're now in the process of a major clinical study to prove that this can be used to triage patients between those who have a high risk of ovarian cancer and those who don't before they have surgery for pelvic mass. And that is due for completion in Europe by the end of next year, 2016.
But what are the steps required, the further steps required to commercialize the system?
There's multiple different steps, many of which have already been completed. We've obviously finalized the development of the system and the consumable, and that has been tested and has shown to be robust. It's CE marked in Europe. We're in process with the FDA to get authorization for use in the United States in treating patients. And then the big further steps are sort of robust clinical studies with patient data, and that coupled with the authorization from the regulatory authorities is what's needed for clinical applications. Of course, it's worth noting that this system is already being offered for sale for research use, and we're beginning to get quite a lot of interest in that, and should be delivering sales later this calendar year.
And do you intend to do all this on your own, or would you consider partnerships, for instance?
Well, Angle's got a pretty smart approach to this commercially, so we've outsourced as much as we can to other partners. So we have separate manufacturers of our consumable and of our instrument, and we have separate advisors on the regulatory process and so on, so that we keep our cost base very focused and try not to overburden it. In terms of partnering with other organizations, very definitely, because when the cancer cells have been captured and harvested for analysis, they then need to be analyzed. And the approach there is that the analysis of the cells can be done by existing big medtech players. So we have established certain partnerships with different parties, and we're exploring others as well.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for the update, Andrew.
That's my pleasure.
Andrew Newland, Chief Executive at Angle PLC.